It's time for one of our favorite things to do. It's time for a commission on the history of Italian gymnastics. It is June or July 2026, and welcome to GymCastic, the number one gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica. I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. Today's commission was commissioned by Galactic Champion level Club Gym Nerd member Jasmine. Club Gym Nerd members like Jasmine help us pay our bills, and in return, we get to give them thank you goodies in return, like discounts on merch, first dibs on live show tickets. You can find everything you need at gymcastic.com under the Join the Club tab. And Spencer, what is the brief?
Okay. Jasmine said, I saw your episode on the history of Brazilian gymnastics and knew I needed to do it for Italian gymnastics. I have loved them since 2006 when I first saw Vanessa Ferrari compete. Please do a full history from the early days until the present and your hopes for them in the coming quad. A few questions to discuss. For Ferrari, please discuss if she should have medaled on floor in 2012 and 2016, and should she have won gold in 2020? Was resting their stars in 2025 the right move? Do you think they will defeat the US and win gold this quad? Also, I love the Italian men as well, in particular Bartolini, so feel free to talk about them, a little about them as well. This is my fourth commissioned episode, and I love them so much. Thanks for all you do.
I'm so excited for this, especially the Bartolini of it all. Okay, Spencer, start us off.
Okay, so obviously, we're living in the golden age of Italian women's gymnastics. So a perfect time for this commission. They are coming off their most successful Olympics ever for the women's team with 3 medals. The team won silver, Alice D'Amato won beam gold, Manila Esposito won bronze in the same beam final. So the medals are rolling, the accomplishments are coming in. Italy is a powerhouse of women's gymnastics, one of the teams where we're having the conversation of, are they going to upset the United States and win gold? That's a realistic conversation we're having, and that's a very new phenomenon in this the changing dynamic of who are the powerful teams. Italy is now a power team. As we're going to get into the history, my favorite part, because I only like, my favorite thing to talk about is gossiping about people who are dead, because then they can't come back with anything. So when we start talking about people who are dead, I'm happy. I'm in my cool place. But before we do that, what would you say is, if I'm asking you to define the character of the Italian women's gymnastics team, their identity, what you think of when you first think of them, or what makes them different from any other country's national team? Like, how would you describe that?
I think what's different about them is they don't have a weak place. So as a whole, they're not weak in their artistry. They're not weak in their difficulty. They are so strong on bars and have been for a very long time. Also are innovative at the same time. Like they are willing to do things differently. I guess, if I'm saying, do they have a weak point? Maybe vault is a weak point, but most countries vault is not a strong point.
I feel, but I know what you mean, but also like when the D'Amatos are healthy,
right?
Like, is vault a weakness? Yeah.
Right.
For the present day team. It's always about who's healthy, but yeah.
Formaggio, but yeah, it's in comparison, like, do they have the 3 of the hardest vaults in the world? Like, no. But could they? Yes. I think they could. But I guess and they're always fan favorites. That's the other thing. Like everyone loves the Italians, everybody. And that's not true of many teams. Like everybody has a country that hates their gymnastics, or they can't stand this person or whatever. Everyone loves Italians, and I think it's the art.
And also, I think one of the things that stands out to me from watching, whether it's Jesolo or Serie A, is that it is the closest thing we see, and I mean this complimentary, in European gymnastics to the college gymnastics United States identity, where it really does look like this is a fun thing you would want to be a part of. Which is not always, it's not a kind of revolutionary in women's gymnastics. Like, you look like you're not having a terrible time. Like, this looks fun. And I think that for me, the Italian women in particular make technical precision look fun. That makes sense. Like, they have technically precise gymnastics, but they have broken this idea of either you're going to have fun or you're going to be like locked in type A, can't possibly ever make a mistake or have a toe out of place, and that those are separate things. It looks like this current era, like, this is joyful and precise at the same time. You don't have to, pick one or the other, which I think is kind of internationally the identity of the Simone Biles era of gymnastics throughout all countries is like, you can be successful without having a stick up your ass the entire time. And I think the present day Italian women's team embodies that as a group very well.
Mm-hmm. Also, I wanted to say, we're going to mention like Serie A, and it's Series A is what we're talking about. And it's just like their pro league series that they do. Mm-hmm. But we're pronouncing it as if we're in Italy.
Well, how would you like us to pronounce it?
I mean, it's just like confusing. Like, it's confusing when you don't know. You're like, how do I look up Serie A? How do you spell that? And you're like, oh, it's just Series A. Like, that's the thing. I'm just saying it so people can look it up if they want to. If they see it.
But you have to look it up about gymnastics, because if you just try, you're going to get the soccers.
Right.
That'll be first.
Right. Look up the gymnastics version. Gymnastic. Okay. So where shall we begin?
The beginning. We're going to begin at the very beginning. And by that, I mean the very beginning. We'll start there. We'll go through early success, some lean years, the Ferrari Revolution, into the current days. But starting with the early days, where the Italian men's team was one of the foundational dominant teams from the beginning of competitive gymnastics. They won 3 straight men's all-around Olympic gold medals in the early days. Alberto Braglia in 1908 and 1912, and then Giorgio Zampori in 1920. There was no Olympics in 1916 because of war. So that was 3 straight for them. I think Alberto Braglia was kind of the first consistent, like, Olympics to Olympics dominant champion. But one of the interesting things about specifically Italy's early success is we talk a lot about these very early countries who were successful in men's gymnastics, and it coming from the military, and just like this being part of military training and the history, and like you were good at gymnastics because this was just, you were doing military training as the Olympics, and they translated, which is true, throughout every country. But there's also part of Italy's long history of acrobatics and circus arts that comes into this as well. That's part of this early dominance. So Alberto Braglia, who won 2 consecutive all-around Olympic golds, was like, his job was an acrobat in the circus, like tumbling circus arts acrobat. That was his job, to the point where the Italian Federation temporarily disqualified him in between his Olympics. So he won gold in 1908, and then they were like, oh no, you're a professional. And in those days, and many days after, you had to be an amateur to compete in the Olympics. They were like, no, Alberto, you do this sport as your job because you're an acrobat in the circus, so you're not allowed to compete. They somehow got it resolved in time for the 1912 Olympics, and he was able to compete again and won all-around gold. But, controversy the first. We love a controversy, and we're getting early.
This is an excellent one. This one actually makes sense, even though the whole, being amateur thing is so stupid. But also I want to go back to the military thing, gymnastics, like you were talking about, gymnastics, the modern competition, the way that we have it in modern gymnastics was developed came from military training, was developed in the military. It all goes back to the military. The acrobatics, the original stuff, is all much more ancient, but that is how we got training on the horse and jumping on and off, and it all came from the military, which goes to parkour too. So although there's a divergence with parkour, but we're not going there. We're sticking to how to pronounce things.
We have to stay at least slightly in our lane of gymnastics, but we're going to diverge 1,500 times. But also talking about Italian acrobats and circus performers, we have to talk about our favorite interpersonal controversy, or interpersonal drama.
No, it's you versus the entire United States. That's the controversy.
It's me and Italy versus the entire United States, and I'll take Team
That's
Italy.
right. It's everyone that's done the skill versus people who haven't done the
basically,
skill.
If you did a front with a half in gymnastics, if you did a front with a half in your life, probably in your gym, certainly in Jessica's gym, that's a Branny. As Jessica would like you to know. Branny.
Everyone in the United States says Branny.
And I'm like, yeah, okay. Have fun, all of you, with your front chicken dump and your weird names for your weird skills. It's a Barani because it's a named element. The story is it's named after an 1800s Italian acrobat, but his name was Alfonso Baroni. So we're both wrong, basically, is where I'm coming from.
That's
but
where Branny came from.
It is a named element, like Tkachev or an Anodi, allegedly. Various other named elements. It is not, that's where it comes from. But, the words get ruined. The lesson that words get, life is a game of telephone, and words get changed and misused. And so maybe we're both wrong.
Or clearly 1,000 people did this before, going back hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of years.
Sure.
Like an Anodi. Many did it before Anodi got it named. So we've just made up our own word. Branny.
That's where it is. So this Italian team also won 3 straight team gold medals, 1912, 1920, 1924. Their most successful Olympics, and maybe some 2028 foreshadowing, because Italy's most successful Olympics in gymnastics was in Los Angeles in 1932, where they won 7 medals, men's team gold, men's all-around gold. Romeo Neri won 3 gold medals, one of the most decorated athletes of any sport at that Olympics. So Italy was dominating in a lot of respects early on in competitive gymnastics. One of my favorite little historical weirds, though, because this is all I'm here for, are historical weirds. Once we hit like 2000s, I'm handing the baton to Jessica, and I'm just going to be like, you do this part. These people are still alive. I don't want to talk about them. But in 1906, which is no longer considered an official Olympics because it was in between the quads, but at the time they were like, this is an official Olympics. We're having one in 1906. In the men's team competition, Italy placed both 3rd and 4th in the men's team final because Team Florence finished 3rd and Team Rome finished 4th. So my question to Jessica is, if that were a thing and you could compete as a city within a country in gymnastics team finals, who are the most dominant? Who are medal winners? Who's won a medal as a city? If that word could continue through the history of the Olympics.
So I did a little research on this because I was like, okay, Texas is probably the most famous for gymnastics because it has 2 all-around Olympic champions who trained in Texas.
I mean, we've got more who trained in Texas.
Olympic champion, all-around champions?
Carly Patterson. Miss Nastia Lucan.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Miss Simone Biles.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Times.
And Mary Loretton. Yeah. Okay, so there's 4.
Like, a lot?
Yeah, like all the ones in a row back to when Simone started winning them all. Okay. So here is the thing. But they're not really in the city. They're in the surrounds.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. And then it's like, well, okay, our centralized training facilities, like Round Lake, does that count? But you're not all you're coming together to train there, but you've got people from Belarus and Ukraine all competing together in the Soviet Union,
So this is what I was like, well, do we look at where people are from? Like when you say, well, like, where am I from? I'm from Hershey, Pennsylvania. I'm not, but where do I live and train in California?
Are you saying Simone Biles is from Ohio, or is she from Texas?
Well, however she identifies. But so I was like, the city of Texas places.
The city of Texas, yeah.
Then I was like, okay, SoCal, because there's Rigby, Maroney, Kyla Ross, Kathy
Definitely
Johnson.
Competing on the same team in the same era. I love it.
Right? It's of all time. You said of all time.
Okay.
Right? And then we have the city of Horkina. So She alone is
Just
her own.
Horkina and her 4 egos on a team together.
Yes. Carrying their phones. God, can you imagine if Horkina had been competed in the 80s and she could have had big shoulder pads and like one of those giant car phones, like a satellite phone with a huge antenna? I can just see her driving with the top down in the snow in Moscow.
I can see her doing that now.
Just because.
Just because.
And then I was like, okay, Kitty Kyushu, because Kohei. Uchimura. That's where he was born.
And no other members of the team. Yeah.
King Kohei and all of his.
I think it's challenging, but there are definitely like some. But maybe some cities we don't know of. But then I was thinking, even in the Romanian teams, they were not born in Deva.
Right.
So I think it's hard.
And also, but this is as bad. This like you can have two teams competing from the same country. This bothers me as much as the sports ball saying they're world champions. You know what I like about this New York City won, Mamdani Stan won the basketballs, but I appreciate they're not running around saying they're world champions, because they're not, because world championships are against countries and not professional teams. You're welcome, but congratulations to you guys.
But if you have teams from many different countries, players from many different countries, isn't that a celebration of international championhood? It's
not the championships of international unity. I'm all for that. It's world championships are country versus country, but also have to mention Iowa with Gabby Douglas and Shawn Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
They should also be.
Yeah. Who else was there? Like Nora Flatley could have been on their team with them.
Oh yes.
Right? Was she was there, right? Or
Nora Flatley was there after.
Yeah. That's a pretty good Iowa Olympic team, which is not a city. We know. Don't write a letter. I know Iowa's not a city.
We just can't remember Des Moines or Chowder. Or which one it is. Okay.
Also, Italian women. I want to talk about the women because also early dominance. First women's gymnastics Olympic medals ever. The team competition in 1928. The Italian women won silver. So right from the beginning, they were winning a team silver medal, which they then repeated. So we didn't get to say it was a historic team silver in Paris 2024, because technically it had happened before, but it was in 1928 when the gymnastics decided women existed for a second, and then after that they were like, absolutely not. But the competition was sort of something. I don't know if we can really say it does not resemble modern gymnastics.
It doesn't, but it's still an Olympic record because
it is an Olympic gymnastics medal. Yes.
Right. So it counts for records.
I would say in those days, it kind of resembled more like partially like a rhythmic group performance, a little bit of like a modern cheer competition. But if the gymnastics apparatuses were there, kind of, you were like creating a performance and then being like, let us present our performance that we have created for the judges, or 3 performances totaling 40 minutes. So get that endurance down because you're performing for 40 minutes. This is a play, everybody. It's a competitive play. So I think it's my favorite.
On some grass, outdoors.
But no ornaments. That was specifically prohibited. No flower. You couldn't put flowers on your dress or on the beam. There was a specific rule against that. So, let's try it again and force Donatella to ban it.
Now, the important part.
Yeah.
The Lady of the Rings.
Oh, yes. I know. I want to talk about the Lady of the Rings. So this is the part where we gloss over World War II entirely, because that would be too fraught to get into. And we move on to 1948 and the first Italian women's individual champion who does not get her just due, Laura Micheli, who in her obituary, which was last year, when she was 94, the Italian Federation called her the Lady of the Rings, which of course I adore. She competed at the 1948 Olympics, the one and only Olympics when women competed on swinging rings, which is where on the event she got the 3rd best score. She also had the 3rd best all-around score. Now, a quick glance would tell you that the Italian women won 0 Olympic medals between that 1928 team silver and Vanessa Ferrari in Tokyo, but that overlooks a lot because, anytime you're trying to talk about the history of women's sports, it's not the history of who was the best, it's the history of who was allowed to be rewarded for what they were doing in the cultural confines of a specific era. So Laura Micheli left the London Olympics with no medals because the team didn't place well and they didn't give individual medals to women. They just gave individual medals to the men, but the women didn't get any individual medals. But if they had, she would have had an all-around bronze and a rings bronze. And then after 1948, her best event was eliminated because her best event was rings. And they were like, oh yeah, that's not ladylike enough. Women can't do rings anymore.
Which is so stupid. So I competed.
I'm just baiting Jessica at this point.
I know.
This is just sexism baiting at this point.
But the thing is, you are giving an actual voice to the sexism of the time, and I appreciate that very much. But also, I competed in an adult gymnastics meet at LA Valley College, which is the hottest gymnastics meet I've ever competed at. An adult gymnastics meet. I had a full body
temperature or attractiveness.
Temperature wise.
Okay,
I did not prepare myself. I had a full body cramp after, which I had never experienced in my life. But anyway, there was a woman there who was like 84 at the time. This was probably 15 years ago. And she was a swinging rings era woman. So she did a floor routine that had a lot of headstands in it. And then she did her swinging rings routine. It was so cool. We were all like, oh my God. Because you can never be old if you still do gymnastics, number one. But if you want to see what swinging rings are like, they still do it in Sweden or Switzerland, Austria, Germany. Those areas still have swinging rings, and it's so cool, and they should totally add it back. Okay.
So Laura Micheli did win bronze with the team at 1950 Worlds, which was... It was not the first Worlds in gymnastics for women, but it was the first with the sport kind of as we know it now-ish in the current apparatuses. Now, this is like if you think about Larissa Latinina, this is the sport she competed, the gymnastics she competed in is kind of what we started to see in 1950. Italy,
era.
What?
Buffon era.
I feel like we're still not quite, like Czeslavska was like 60s Buffon.
Okay, so this was
we're proto Buffon.
Yeah.
We're just starting to learn Buffon 1950. Italy did win 2 beam medals. Maria Nuti and Licia Macchini won beam medals, and then it was the big goose egg for women's medals until Vanessa Ferrari started winning everything beginning in 2006. But we had a long lull, but there was initial stars and initial success, which I maybe didn't know so much about before we started talking about this.
But now you know. And then we get to the most important thing that happened in Italy, which is gymnasts and gymnastics and some wrestling in the bath.
Yes.
The
best Olympics gymnastics venue ever. You can have your discussions about which podium had the best color. No, 1961.
The best. This is cue the obligatory photo of my wrestling coach competing in the Rome Olympics, which was also they were like, so if you're not a visual listener, these are like the remains of Roman baths, Roman buildings, Roman everything. And so you had these beautiful ruins of stone around the athletes competing, and they were competing outside. Wrestling was outside. Gymnastics was more or less outside because the roof wasn't really there.
Well, it had long since crumbled to the ground. These were at the baths of Caracalla in Rome, and it was long since the roof was gone.
I still a tiny roof.
Maybe there's a little bit,
but it's so beautiful.
Shaded area.
Otherwise,
you would have died of heat.
Yeah.
I still question. I don't know how we're attaching the scoreboard to the wall. That's one of the things of the bath. I'm worried about the historical preservation and have been every time I see a picture of this Olympics. I'm like, how are we attaching this? Was that sound? Did that go past? Was that approved by the various historical bodies that we were allowed to attach a scoreboard to an ancient ruin? I don't know, but otherwise, I'm all on board. This is what it should all look like. None of these built arenas. Boo.
No, now we're just going to have drone scoreboards like they're doing at the World Cup of soccer. Everything that's a World Cup, if it's not gymnastics, should have to say what it is. Because there's a World Cup of sailing, of soccer, of fencing, probably of figure skating. You have to say the World Cup of insert sport name. Thank you. But the giant scoreboards that are drones, amazing. And then they can turn themselves around. You can see them from a mile away.
Is that do we want to be able to see it from a mile away?
Well, like in an outdoor stadium, yes. In gymnastics, I don't know. It makes, flying things worry me.
Yeah. I don't like
Drones
that.
on strings.
I don't like it.
The net around it? Yeah. How did the men do? They were
This was a successful Olympics for the Italian men's team. They won bronze in the team final. Franco Minichelli won 2 medals in 1960, 2 medals in 1964, plus 3 world's medals. So kind of between Romeo Neri, who was the star of the 1932 Los Angeles Olympics, and Juri Chechi and Rings in the 90s, who we'll talk about. Minichelli was kind of the best of the most successful Italian male gymnast, who also just died a few months ago, by the way. We've got a longevity theme going on here, where it's like, if you're, a really good Italian gymnast, you're probably going to live into your 90s.
Yeah. I think it's the blue zone combined with gymnastics.
Got it.
Yeah. And surviving a war. These are the things they all have in common.
But in general, this was not that we went through some and by we, I mean the Italians, and I've just counted myself among the Italians now, went through a lot of lean decades where there wasn't a lot of success. There weren't a lot of great results. There weren't a lot of medals. And we're moving into or continuing the sexism chapter, where we talk about how between 1966 and 1989, the Italians won 0 medals at Worlds or Olympics and weren't that close. For women's artistic, Italy had no competitors at all in the next Olympics after Rome in 1964. No women. Then 1968, they just had individuals. No Italian women's team qualified to the Olympics between 1980 and 2000. And I just want to highlight some reasons that maybe the Italian women were not having the greatest success. So we'll talk about some Olympic delegation demographics and sizes. So 1964 Olympics, the Italian delegation was 157 men and 11 women. In 1968, it was 152 men and 15 women. 1972, it was 197 men and 27 women. 1976, 183 men and 27 women. 1984, 222 men and 46 women. So this is the 80s, you guys. 1988, 212 men and 41 women. When you don't value something, you can't expect to have results. And if you don't value women's athletics, you're not going to have results. End of section. Mm-hmm. That's my. I was like, how do we characterize how the Italian women didn't have great results for like decades and decades? Oh, because they didn't have great results in anything.
Mm-hmm. There's a really good documentary about the volley 1960. What year was Japan Olympics? 62?
64.
They had they were like, we're gonna do well at volleyball. For some reason, they chose volleyball as their sport, and there's women that worked at some factory, and they were like, we're picking a team from here. You're gonna be the factory team, and you're gonna win Olympic gold in volleyball. So they made a point. They got all the women that already like worked together, could train right away. They trained together, and it is fascinating at how well this worked when there was attention paid, and they invested in the women. And I wonder, from Italians, tell us when did the culture change, perhaps in Italy, that allowed women
and are you still waiting for it
to do whatever they wanted in life? And yeah, when was that? How was it? Do you think that affected the role of women in society? Affected how they do today versus in the 60s and the 80s, when there were so few, 41 women. Yeesh.
Yeah. And it was like, it took until very recently for the Italian delegation at the Olympics to approach anywhere near gender equity. I don't know that I think we're still waiting for 50-50, but it's close now. But it's like only been a couple Olympics.
But let's go back to the men for biceps and breakthroughs.
Yeah, so things started to get better, both for on the men's side and the women's side. On the men's side, the medals came earlier, almost exclusively thanks to Juri Chechi, a star of the rings, a dominant force for an entire quad plus on the rings. So Juri Chechi originally broke this streak that had been going back to the 60s of no medals at Worlds or Olympics for the Italians. In 1989, he won bronze. 1991 Worlds, again, bronze on rings. And then after post-Barcelona, won everything in a row. So 93 Worlds, gold medal, 94 Worlds, gold medal, 95 Worlds, 96 Worlds, and 96 Olympics, because they had both that year. 97 Worlds, golds as a streak, and then came back for Olympic bronze in 2004. But it was immediate, just absolute dominance if you were not part of that era. He was just the rings one for many, many years. Most iconically, in the most important cultural moment of Spencer's youth, the 1996 Olympic Gala, he did the Iron Cross triple nod of look to the side, aren't I awesome? Look to the other side, aren't I awesome? Look to the center, aren't I awesome? And it was that was at least my first exposure to oh, rings gymnasts are feeling themselves. They are not aware of their own excellence in general. I would say the rings specialists are not afraid to tell you how awesome they think they are in general. And I feel like that was at least my first exposure to oh, that's the personality of a rings guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. That can go in. Oh, I feel like this is an important moment for Americans where they realize that Italians could have red hair.
Whoa, okay. Yeah.
I know it's going crazy here, but I think most Americans didn't know that. Yeah, because that's a big trip. Most Americans don't get out of the country.
So the Italian men have a significant, largely thanks to Juri Chechi, but not exclusively, have a significant mark on rings, which is they have the most all-time world's medals on rings, which is more than the Soviet Union or China at time of recording. They have one more. They've had a ton of stars on rings. Matteo Morandi has won 5 medals, 4 worlds, and 1 Olympics on rings. Even most recently in 2021, when the Italian men had a great world championships, they won a couple medals on rings. So there is a long history of success specifically on that apparatus, though a lot of it is owed to Juri Chechi. But this was also an important era for the Italian women. Even though we had to wait for the Vanessa Ferrari years for the medals to really start flowing in, this was an innovation era for the Italian women's gymnasts, and a lot of names that we still bring up when we're identifying skills were Italian women who were competing in this era, late 80s, early 90s, tons of eponymous skills, creativity, a lot of just new elements, innovation, like Patrizia Lucconi, who on vault did the round off full on and then back tuck. So you'll often hear any vault that's around like a Yurchenko, but it's full on, or 3/4 on, which you can do now, but it's more than like a round off half on, like a Chung. If you're doing 3/4 or full on, that's all called like a Lucconi style vault. Like we would say a Yurchenko style vault when you're doing a round off. Like that was the first one. So all of those vaults, competitively named after yourself. So all of those vaults are kind of known as Lucconis. But also, she had a beam mount stolen from her, and I'm not over it.
No.
So the round off back handspring full onto the beam. So if you think Sana Waver's Rio Olympic final, that was her mount onto the beam. That was the Lucconi in the code for a while. But when they changed the description from being a round off, back handspring full to being like 3/4 to grab the beam and then you finish the last quarter turn on the beam, which is how people do it. I mean, that's an accurate description of you do 3/4 turn, then you grab the beam and kind of situate yourself for the last quarter. They changed the description. They took her name off the skill. It's still that's what she was doing. It's still the same skill. So, the code's ruined. It's all terrible. Justice for Patrizia Lucconi.
That is the theme of any time we talk about skills.
Yeah.
So-and-so did it first, and they took it out.
They got rid of it. Yeah. But anyway, so there's more. There should be more Luconi. Veronica Cervente is another vault that we talk about. So her eponymous vault is the round off half on, tuck half. So I think the last person I can think of doing it is when Grace McCallum went to Utah, like her freshman year at Utah. She was doing a round off half on, tuck half. But that's Cervente. That's in the code of points. Another athlete in this era is Julia Volpe, who has one bar skill named after her, should have two. Her interesting bars, for her bar skill that she still has, the Volpe, is an interesting one because it's kind of like, can you describe this better than I can? Because it's kind of like a Horkina, but not.
Yeah. Imagine an actual reverse Tkachev. It's the opposite. It's just forward Tkachev. And then before you grab the bar, when you're already over, your butt's over the bar, your whole body's over the bar, then you half turn, but you're in perpendicular to the bar. You're straight up and down when you catch the bar on the other side. So you basically like vault yourself in a straddle over the high bar. And then when you're way over and your feet are pointing at the ground vertically, then you half turn, grab the bar again.
Yeah, it's a fascinating skill. It's a C. Do you think that's right?
Yeah. Because it's not that hard to do this. Like if I look at it, I'm like, oh, I could just jump and do this. Then it's not.
Then you're like, that should be an A.
It's like, yeah. Out of the drop giant, like getting the momentum to do it is like out of, dropping forward like that. I hate those kind of giants. Like you're in a handstand and then you drop down and have to regrasp the bar. Like this is how so many people have literally broken their backs. So it makes me very nervous to watch that approach to it. But yeah, it's cool though.
So we'll have a GIF of it, and you have to watch it 1,500 times in a row. Julia Volpe also had a second skill stolen from her in the code of points, which was a full turn to L grip, eagle grip before handstand. It was a giant swing and then a full turn before handstand, which was removed from the code because they were like, if it's not, you have to get, all skills have to get to handstand and then you can do something. But like pirouetting pre-handstand and then swinging back the other way and never getting to handstand, they were like, this is obviously disgusting and not bars, and we must eradicate it from the code of points immediately.
This makes me crazy because
this is cool looking.
It's cool. You're actually spinning on one hand. It's like this whole you have to be in a perfect handstand thing. Like it took out so many fun things from the code and it makes me mad.
So while we're on the subject of Italian eponymous skills in the women's code, because there are many of them, I'm going to jump chronologically. I'm going to jump for a second and talk about some of these other skills. Carlotta Giovannini at 2006 World Championships got the double Arabian piked bars dismount named after herself. One of the reasons, again, complaining about the code of points, one of the reasons I want to talk about this is she got this named with Li Ya, and it was fine. Because there were so many years around this period where they were like, oh, if two people do the skill, we can't name it after anyone. It just goes unnamed. And I'm like, you did it here and it was fine. Everyone was fine with it. Anyway, great. I love a double Arabian bars dismount. I would like to see more of them. I think they're very cool. And I would like to encourage more gymnasts to consider the very difficult double Arabian bars dismount. Tucked, piked, I don't care. I just like it.
They're very cool. They're terrifying, but they're very cool, especially the piked one.
When has that ever stopped anyone?
That's right. It's elite gymnastics. It's not
elite gymnastics.
Yeah.
If you find the double Arabian, or no, you find the double lay not scary enough and would like to be terrified, may I interest you in a double Arabian piked? Leah Parolari at 2007 Worlds got Jessica's favorite dismount, the favorite bars dismount, which is one of the I'm in a handstand and I'm gonna do a back tuck off the bar from handstand as my dismount. Hers originally, she was like mine separate because I'm doing an in bar, an inside stalder, a between legs inside stalder into the handstand and then dismounting. The women's technical committee said, no, that's just an inside stalder circle and then a new skill where you're doing a dismount, but it's just a dismount back tuck. But that is named after her. And Tanya Deladio in the code of points.
If you're not a visual listener, you can imagine this is the Parquet's donkey kick back tuck off the high bar skill. And I do appreciate that. Actually, I mean, that never should have been the piked stalter into it. It's not, because she does the piked stalter. And then as everybody does, you have to like get into your handstand on the high bar out of your stalter, and then you have to whack yourself. You have to like arch throw to get the back tuck from your hands, because you're actually doing a 1.5 to flip off of your hand. So like it's not you can't connect it unless you're nuts.
Yeah, the main thing I want to talk about with Leah Parlari, even though this is why her name shows up in the code, is one, her inside stalder before that on bars is an excellent inside stalder. Like that's a Ukrainian pancake inside stalder. That's how we want him to look. You came up with that term. I love that you taught me that.
And now we need the that sound effect of that song that's I'm gonna get a pound cake. You know that song?
No, I do not. Obviously. But also, speaking of Italian gymnastics, favorite things in Leah Parlari, her turns, just in general on everything. But I would say position-wise, she has my favorite Memel turn of all time, which is the double Y spin on floor. I'm like, oh yeah, if everyone did it and it looked like that, this is a good one. This is a good skill. I like it.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
Couple other innovators, Paola Galante at 2009 Worlds got a couple skills named after herself. So the inside Tkachev is on bars. The inside Stalder Tkachev is a Galante. We were talking about this pretty recently because Kalia Namor, one of her eponymous skills that she's been just throwing out a new one every week at this point, was the inside Stalder straddle Tkachev with half turn. We were talking about how the value of that is the same as the Galante, which is without the half turn. Inside Stalder Tkachev straddle over the bar. Also, Y turn 1.5 on beam, which I do like a 1.5 turn on beam.
Yeah.
It's like but also because we don't see it a lot, and you kind of get in when you watch a lot of routines, you get into the habit of expecting, okay, this is going to be a single turn, and then you see something like, oh, you're facing the different direction. This is the problem with cookie cutter routines and codes. It's like you get so accustomed to what everything's going to look like that when someone does something, it's like ends facing a different direction. You're like, ooh, how fancy. So I love it. I love the Italian turns of this era. I love that 1.5 Y spin. I love Elisabetta Preciosa's Scorpion turn on beam, which is named after herself at 2011 Worlds. Great turns on beam.
So beautiful. This is when you turn and grab your foot behind your back and do a scale and then turn in that scale position. So beautiful. Also, she belongs in the pantheon of artistry. Just gymnast for artistry. And I'm going to think of so many because we did our pantheon of gymnastics commission episode. And now I'm thinking of all the people we didn't put in there, especially for beam.
Because we had to add new, we had to kept having to construct new rooms for more beamers.
Yes. It's many buildings now. It's not one pantheon. It is many pantheons. It's taken over Rome, basically.
And we also have Vanessa Ferrari's Tour Jeté ring half on floor, which is like, good job getting a skill named after yourself. If we're listing my top 15 favorite things about Vanessa Ferrari, that's not one.
Right. No. Good for you.
Good use of the code. A lot of things, especially for like 2012 Olympics, I was like, this is code hacking. Good job, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah. Hard, difficult, but like the wolf turn in my book.
A couple famous men's skills to mention. There are many men's skills in the men's code of points named after Italians. I'm not going through all of them, but ones we talk about a lot. The Cassina, which is Igor Cassina, 2004 Olympic high bar gold medalist, full twisting layout Kovac, which is pretty common for people who are doing, risky high bar routines. It's the showcase release, I think, in a lot of the risky or high bar routines to this day is the Cassina. The Busnari on pommel horse is one of the good ones on pommel horse.
Good skill.
Straddle, handstands, circles in a straddled handstand, and then you lower to flare. It's a good one. It's one of the ones I like.
It's one of those things you associate with how pommel horse is supposed to look. Not all this like what position is their hand in on what part of the thing, and are they?
We know Russian circles are hard. I don't like the look.
So boring. We have some updates for you. If you're a Club Gym Nerd member who get our special extra bonus content like our exclusive content right after competitions, like our weekly Q&A behind the scenes episode that you get every Friday, and our full archive. And we have games, and you have a members only section in the message board, and we have discounts for live shows. You can find all of that at gymcastic.com and look for live show tickets soon. You can also give Club Gym Nerd membership as a gift. And it's wedding season, so nothing makes a better wedding gift or bachelorette gift or what showers with things. Shower people with a GymCastic Club Gym Nerd membership for their bonus stuff. Also, we have newsletters. There's a new way to sign up on the homepage. And we're having a refer a friend thing we're doing. So you tell your friend, sign up. Both of us will get a month free. So once they sign up, then you as a member send us an email that says, hey, my friend, I'm already a member, my friend signed up with this email address. And then you'll both get a month free. And email customerservice@gymcastic.com, put referral in the subject line, and we'll do the rest. And you can find all of these things at gymcastic.com. I wanted to give a little dedication this week. We received a letter that one of our longtime listeners, Colleen, passed away unexpectedly, and her friend and fellow gym nerd shared the news and expressed how much joy the show brought her. And we want to send our condolences to Colleen's family and friends and say thank you to Maggie for letting us know how much the show meant to Colleen, and this community means so much to us. So thank you so much. Okay, this is my question about naming things.
Yeah.
So now two people can have the same skill named after them. They both perform it at the same meet. They both get it named. But should there be a tiebreaker for being the first to do a skill, which is who gets the better E-score gets it named?
Okay, well, E-score on your whole routine or E-score on that skill?
Just on that skill.
If it's just on that skill, I would absolutely be in favor of this, because we would get to see the receipts of how a single skill was evaluated in E-score. Therefore, we would force that to happen, and I am in favor of it. And you know how I like breaking ties and determining who is the winner of the winners.
Speaking of which, do you know that France has actually, we were just talking about French nationals, how they broke out the E-score. They've been doing this for years. Not new.
I feel like maybe we talked about it before and I just forgot, but that happens.
But yeah, it's like, oh, this goes back years, and why isn't the US doing it? I wonder. This is why we need drones flying around with the artistry checkbox. That's what we really want. Before we get into the Ferrari Revolution, may I interject with a history?
Love some interjections.
We went over the history of the sexism, and I want to go over the history of controversies and racism in the Italian Federation. So you remember at Simone Biles' first World Championships, which was Antwerp 2013, right after the London Olympics with Kyla Ross, she basically won everything.
She did not sweep. She never won a world bar.
She never won everything, but this is where we were all like, Simone Biles is going to win everything, and she showed up and she did, and people were shocked, and we were like, oh, we already knew. Carlotta Ferlito was salty that she and Ferrari finished 4th and 5th in the beam final. After the beam final, Ferlito said, quote, next time we'll have our skin black also so we can win too. Period. End quote. This, of course, sparked massive backlash, as it should, because this is a racist thing to say, that if you have a skin color, you can win. USA Gymnastics under Steve Penny condemned it and then invited Ferlito to compete at the American Cup. Ferlito apologized like 2 days later. She said that she didn't mean to sound rude or racist, and that she was a huge fan of USA Gymnasts. The Italian Federation, however, made it way worse. They did condemn her statement, saying every form of racism and discrimination is wrong. But they made it worse because their spokesperson posted on Facebook trying to criticize the judging and the FIG in general, saying that the judging was the problem, and they're, we're rewarding power over artistry, and that's what Simone has. This is the argument. And his illustration of this argument was, some people have it, some people don't. Like, why are there no black swimmers? Because their physical features don't suit the sport, is the quote. Oh my God. The horrors of that racist statement. This was just a compounding of racist statements. If you want to find out more about this, Amy Borman, Simone's coach at the time, talks about it, which, she wanted to tear everything down. And of course, Simone, the next day after this happened, she went on to win all around, I think was the next day. What did she win the next day? She won something.
I think that was the last day. But, she won a lot of medals.
She won all around before that, because that would have been, beam.
That was beam final, and then you have floor final. Yeah.
But
beam,
it was
the Olympic order, just to review: vault, and then bars, beam, and then floor.
Basically, like, it didn't matter. Simone was like, the Italians? I don't care. Okay, now that we have covered that, let us go back to the Ferrari Revolution.
A huge turning point in the history of Italian women's gymnastics, and an abrupt turning point, because 2004 Olympics in Athens, Italy did not qualify a women's team. No women's gymnasts in any finals, including the all-around final. And then by 2006, 2 years later, they had a world all-around champion in Vanessa Ferrari, and also a European team title. It was an immediate, massive change of afterthought to championship, that usually there's a build. Like, usually there's a slow, we're starting to be a contender, and maybe we'll finish fifth, and then fourth, and then we'll see. And it was just like, nope, Vanessa Ferrari, who won the world all-around title at the 2006 World Championships, also bronze on bars and floor. Those were all the first medals for Italian women since 1950, that first Worlds where they won a few medals. The result was, how would you, especially looking back, how would you characterize how that was received? Like Vanessa Ferrari in the 2006 all-around final and her championship.
Bad, horrible.
Bad.
But it was wrong. And this was an illustration of that it was a disaster. It was a disaster of epic proportion. Not because Ferrari didn't do her best. It was because she fell. And we had never had in the modern era, an all-around champion with such a obvious big mistake. And it was clear to everyone that the code was wrong and they did not account for this, because if you fall, you should never be able to win. So the deduction wasn't high enough. And it was just shock and awe horror. But trying to be happy for her, because it was so big for, she's been great. She was a fan favorite for a long time. Trying to be really happy for Italy, but just oh my God, this is the end of gymnastics if you can win with a fall.
Yeah. First year of the new code, and it reinforced all the pre-new code criticisms of what this was going to bring. It was just added fuel to the fire of the sky is falling and gymnastics is dead. And everything is ruined. And I think it's so interesting, because I think that we've had so many champions win with falls since then, especially, and in many cases where you're yeah, but Simone fell once, but did anyone else really deserve it? That I think that criticism feels so dated, and it feels like a vestige of a different time. And I think it's kind of gone away. I don't think of it anymore. The way it was oh my God, someone won with a fall, everything's ruined now. But also, most importantly, in that all-around final, she got 1,000 bonus points for having to deal with Bruno Grandi pinching her cheeks after she won, which is kind of all I can ever think about in this final, where she got pulled around and manhandled by everyone who wanted to take a picture with her and claim that her accomplishment was their own. And then he's pinching her cheeks like she's 4 years old, and less than 4, 1-year-old, and then has to walk away. Anyway, watching that, that's the iconic part of this title for me in some ways, because I'm oh my God, the things you had to deal with too.
Seriously, it's gross watching this back. I mean, he yanks her to the side, he squeezes her cheeks together, kisses her on the head. And I know, the Italians are very
different cultures, yes.
Right, all of that stuff, but you don't, it's just, ugh. Yeah.
it gives the
guy, it's still wrong, but it's just gross seeing a grown man, a very old man do that to teenager, 20, how old was she, 19, 20 at
that
the
was
time?
She was a first year senior that year. So
okay,
16 or turning 16 that year. But yeah, won the all-around title. I think as what I mean to say is, as time passes, I think the reaction has totally changed to Ferrari's championship from being "how dare you win with a fall" to like, what an amazing accomplishment. I think, at least my characterization of it. You kind of iffy on it?
Yeah, I still think it's seen as like a disaster. Even though Ferrari is held in esteem, this win was still, I think, a disaster in terms of gymnastics fans, because we were like, wait, you have a toe out of place, you can't win, and now you can fall off beam and have a win? But yeah.
I think 2006 is tough because, like, who should have won instead? Because, like, Chelsea Memel qualified in first and withdrew. So she was not in the final. And I watched that final and I'm like, kind of, yeah. If it were a 3-event all-around final, it'd be like Sandra Isbasha, but she had to do bars. I mean, Jana Bieger had a lot of form errors.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, I don't, like, watching it back now, I don't see a more deserving champion in that final than Ferrari. But that's not how I felt at the time.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, because it is like the scores should rank the gymnast. That's the point. So did they rank the gymnast correctly? Yes. But is it also incorrect that you should win with a fall? Yes. That happens all the time.
But we're so used to it. Yeah, we're so used to it now. Yeah. Vanessa Ferrari, this was the big breakthrough, but continued to win medals. Euro all-around title 2007, all-around bronze at Worlds the next year in 2007. But we do need to talk about the 4th place curse that befell Vanessa Ferrari, because for all of her accomplishments and her big breakthrough in her first year as a senior, for many years it was, but she never had the Olympic success and could never break through at the Olympics. She didn't have a great result in Beijing in 2008, and then she was the 4th place curse of the floor finals. 2012, tied for 3rd, but was 4th on execution score. 2016 floor final at the Olympics, finished 4th. And then 2020 or 2021, Tokyo, broke through and got in her very final competitive routine ever in that floor final, got the silver medal. But as Jasmine, our commissioner, asked, do we think those 4th places in 2012 and 2016 were right? Let's revisit what we think about those floor finals and Ferrari finishing 4th in 2 consecutive Olympics.
It's hard to go back and look at look at what the code is at the time. And because now I'm in current code and I'm like, oh, Mustafa was always she got too much credit for artistry because there wasn't any. It was just that she had dance class and could leave from her elbows when she moved her arms, but there was a lot of standing around. But that was the code whoring of the time. That's what you did to get a good score. But I do think there was like Ferrari's tumbling was so good, but wasn't the like Italian Federation put her in the New Jersey going to the club holes in your shirt era.
So you're saying like 2012 she got an ugly Leo penalty?
Yeah.
Because this was the floor final of one sleeve and one sleeveless, but the sleeve that existed had a shoulder hole cutout.
A shoulder piece.
We call it an iconic look. I think we say it was a statement, Leo. It was forgettable. It wasn't boring.
It was horrible, but did we talk about it? Yes.
So are we still talking about it to this day? Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. But yeah, her landings aren't perfect. And then she also, this is the era of, when she used to do that full into stop, stick, and then do a back tuck. Like there's no world in which that's connected.
Yeah, she and Gabby Douglas, I feel like both were like 2012. This is what we're doing. But one of them became, Olympic.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with.
I don't have her top 3 in the 2012 floor final. I don't think she completed her leaps well enough. I don't think the rotation completion was there. She had a lot of landing scoots, and then an extra step, and then a scoot, and then a little movement, and then it's interesting because even though 2012 was the year she tied for 3rd, and 2016 she was 4th outright, I think 2016 she has the better argument for a medal than in 2012. I feel like her execution score should not have been as close as it was in 2012. But when I watched 2016, I'm like, I had her ahead of Amy Tinkler, who won bronze almost the entire time until that very last pass. And I think that's what lost it for her, when she was like landed deep and then stumbled back and then took an extra step. There were so many tenths there where I was like, she was absolutely a medalist. And then I see why it happened on that last pass. And she had some chest position landings, I think generally were an issue, but I think that's closer. 2016.
I agree with 2016. I mean, the biggest problem was that like she almost face planted on, like, I think it was her third pass. She landed so short, and I'm like, okay, but her tumbling was so good. So good. And like she did always have this weird thing where like she'd have her legs together the whole time she was twisting, and then right before she landed, her knees would be together, but then her ankles would go out to the side. And I was like, you're gonna hurt your knees. But it wasn't her knees she hurt all the time. It was her Achilles, it turned out.
Yeah. So pre-Tokyo, the pre-Tokyo era, after the second, fourth place in 2016, it was all about the injuries at that point. So she had a late 2016 Achilles injury that she returned from, and then her gift for returning from her Achilles injury was to compete on the floor in Montreal in 2017. And then she tore her Achilles in the floor final, among the many, many gymnasts whose legs were victimized by the floor exercise at 2017 Worlds. So it was back-to-back injuries. And then she was kind of competing on and off through that 2020 quad. Would do some World Cups, compete floor, solid results, but not like, oh my God, Ferrari kinds of scores. She was not part of the 2019 team, which we'll talk about, breakthrough team, bronze medal at Worlds. But she did qualify to the Tokyo Olympics through that, what we call the Jade Carey route, which was, I might not make the team, but I'm going to go try to be a plus athlete individually. But then at the last second, when Giorgia Villa got injured, Vanessa Ferrari got promoted onto Italy's team of 4. So she was on their team, even though that wasn't her original qualification pathway. And then she reached the floor final, hit the routine, won silver, great moment. An Olympic medal, finally, after all these years, for Vanessa Ferrari and for the Italian team. Should she have been the gold medalist, as Jasmine asks?
Yes. Without a doubt, she should have won gold. And I'm not just saying that because I was there and watched it in person, so you guys can't judge because you didn't see it in person. You only saw it on TV, and it didn't do it justice. But we just talked about this in the Pantheon of Gymnastics, and I just think, like, these are the things. It was like the culmination of her as an adult woman competing and in this final, and with all of her experience and her years of gymnastics and her comebacks from injury, and having been a world champion so long, 17 years before this Olympic floor final.
15
years, which is just nuts to think about. And the use of the Conte Partito floor music, which is the
copyright.
Oh my God, it's like, well, you already can't listen to that opera without crying, but it was so powerful the way she performed it. And when you look at what the artistry checklist is supposed to do in that quad, and how it was supposed to give more power to the artistry that they're trying to incentivize now, and how compared to Jade Carey, who's come so far in her artistry, but there's just no comparison. It's a different sport watching the two of them. So for me, it was hands down, without question, Vanessa Ferrari was the winner. And I think when you remember the great routines of that Olympics, Vanessa Ferrari's is the one I always remember on floor. I forget. I mean, I love Jade, but I always forget that she's the floor Olympic champion from Tokyo. Just there's no question. And I wish there had been more than, 100 people there to see it in person, because it was just everything artistic gymnastics is supposed to be. Power, art, beauty, pain of a nation, pain of many fourth places altogether.
So I will say this was before the artistry checklist. This was pre-artistry checklist Olympics. Those deductions still existed for the most part in the code of points in Tokyo, but they were not as clearly defined as they would be about immediately after this final when they instituted the actual checklist. The checklist. But you know, the descriptions of the deductions were still right. There.
It wasn't the actual checklist like we all have screenshot and put on our desktops now, but it was defined enough that you many times predicted that the US was going to have to change their routines when they got to the Olympics because they weren't going to score this game. And lo and behold, like Suni Lee literally had to change her floor routine mid-Olympics. If only everyone listened to GymCastic.
But I will say, I don't think it's clear cut. And I get your argument. And I do think I agree. But it only comes on, like, if I'm just scoring, like, 2021 code, I'm looking at those routines. If I'm not taking artistry into account, Jade's the winner.
Right.
It is on an artistry thing, but I don't think it's like an obvious thing because how many, I would say like, Ferrari would deserve like a 5/10 bump for artistry, even in that code. And that's what makes the difference by a little bit for me. And that's why I have Ferrari ahead, but it's by like a whisker. It's not by a lot because I have, thanks to Jade's D score, I have her ahead by kind of not a small margin before you take into account artistry.
I accept, and I overrule you based on pain of a nation feelings.
Yeah.
Like, what routine do you remember forever? Ferraris. And when you watch
a beam routine.
When you watch
forever beam.
Play the music as loud as possible and mute the commentators because that's the only way to watch it. Okay, before we get to the next segment, I want in the next generation, I want to talk about the MTV era of Italian gymnastics.
Whoa, big era.
Ginnasta Vita Parallele, which was the show that ran from 2011 to 2016 on now defunct music television, which was called MTV, which
what a time
evolved into reality shows. But this was a reality show starring the Italian gymnast. It was supposed to be a documentary series, and I think actually it was more documentary than the reality shows that evolved like Jersey Shore. But it was very popular, made the gymnast famous. They lived and went to school and trained at the Technical Federation Center in Milan. And there were a lot of gymnasts in it, but the stars of it were Elisabetta Preziosa, who we talked about, who we love, Carlotta Ferlito, Elisa Mangini. Ferrari was in like a spinoff in the leading into Rio, but Enos Marini was in it. Some of our favorites were in this. And of course, most importantly, Enos Marinati. Sorry.
Mariani. And it is pronounced anus, but we don't say it.
Oh, that's right. But we don't say that because
we don't say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And most importantly, future floor world champion, Nicola Bartolini, famous for his the word unlucky tattooed across his neck. And now for his line of underpants with dogs on them, I think. We're confused about the underpants line. And maybe bathing suits. Or maybe they're all bathing suits. Anyway, I remember when he became a world champion and I was like, next year I was like, so interviewing him, were you used to this fame? Is it different now that you're a world champion? He's like, I was already famous. And I was like, oh, because of MTV? He's like, yeah, for a long time. I'm already famous in Italy. Nothing changes for me. Which is, that never happens here. We don't have, until social media, we never had a gymnast who was, famous before they won something major and were on the cover of a cereal box. So what's interesting about this series is that Vanessa Ferrari, the Italian Federation, agreed to this show and let them film and have them, they could have footage of the gymnasts competing. But Vanessa Ferrari, the best Italian gymnast, and her coach refused to appear, except when she did her own episode. And they were like, you can't use our footage for this. And do you remember Enrico Casella, her coach, his famous quote about why aren't you doing the MTV series? And he said something to the effect of, I can't find the exact quote, but he said something like, I train champions, not TV stars. It was like, this is a waste of time. We're not doing this. But interestingly, going into Rio, we're like, oh, well, if you just focus it on, Vanessa, then she'll do it. But maybe then she saw like what the show was, and that, that maybe they had some input into it. But it was a huge boon, I think, for the already successful Italians at this time, but it made the gymnasts that hadn't won everything yet also prominent, and made them stars in the Italy's.
All 5 Italy.
All of our favorite.
We're harkening back to the era of the city-states.
Okay, so Spencer, my question for you is, we've already had something sort of similar with the Olympic Channel's All Around series that was so awesome, where they covered China, Russia, the USA. Hopefully we'll get another one of those if there's, let's hope. So would a reality show like this at a gym in the US that has a lot of elites, would it work? And what gym would you choose? What would be the most interesting show?
The US? No. Pass on the US.
Okay, but what if there was like what if it's like WCC in the Simone area, when there was a French gymnast, American gymnast, and there was another country there?
I feel like, my feeling is that they would never allow it to be interesting enough. It would be too like, oh, well, we're not going to let you film how I really am. Because, like, I would, as we've established, like, I would watch a Simone Biles and Zoe Miller reality show in a heartbeat. Like, that would be great. I don't need them to be doing gymnastics. I need them to take a road trip and visit, the roadside attractions of America, like visit the world's biggest ball of yarn and things like that. Just like take a road trip together, would watch it instantly. I feel like it would be too sculpted, too premeditated, over trying, glossed over. Like it wouldn't be enough for me, probably. I think you would need to have a situation where we're taking the reins off in order to make it interesting enough, and no one would ever agree to that. The most interesting I think we would have in the US would be of an NCAA team. That would be more.
Then we really never get it unfiltered.
I know they would never let it, right? But if you got it, then that would be the really good stuff. But the school would never. But I mean, they did that time, kind of. I mean, it was so. The Georgia one was interesting, even though I'm sure they got rid of everything. Like they were sure that we didn't even begin to scratch the surface of what we could have gotten, and it was still fascinating. Yeah. So I'd love it for that. But you gotta be everyone's too worried about their image to make it good.
And I mean, I feel like the only reason we got the Georgia one was really good because I think they didn't care about the image as much back then, and also there wasn't social media when that came out. And then the UCLA ones, I feel like were probably the most unfiltered back when Deanna was doing them. But the reason is that they were so unfiltered is because Deanna basically was on the team for years, there every day, traveling with them every day. Was it felt like they trusted her as a team member. But then the most controversial year, we've still never gotten that. So there you go. Oh my God, I would love something like this. But oh my God, also, you guys know Zoe Miller is a comedian. She did a stand-up show after NCAAs. Have we talked about that yet? She's hilarious. You cannot keep a straight. I don't know how anyone gets anything done with her in the gym. I don't know if they have a rule that she can't speak during practice because I wouldn't be able to function. There must be so many peed pants because of Zoe Miller in the LSU gym. So many leotard changes. Okay, let's move on to the next request from Jasmine is the Next Generation 2019 World's Medal.
the generation of the current generation, the generation of Italian gymnasts who grew up already knowing a world where an Italian was the world all-around champion, because that most of that group, like the D'Amatos, Giorgia Villa, they were 3 when Vanessa Ferrari won her all-around world medal. So they grew up in an era where an Italian had already been a champion, and like the hype was it's not like they came out of nowhere. Like the hype was so strong for all of them as juniors. Like when these 2003 babies finally become senior, they're going to win all the titles. They're going to break all the records. They're all so good. And they actually came through. It was touch and go there for a while. We'll talk about 2019 Worlds, but they came through and fulfilled the promise of this golden generation who were all kind of the same age. A lot of them were training together, and immediately that very first year, they were senior elites in 2019, won a breakthrough world bronze medal in the team final for most of that Worlds until about 1 second before the final scores of the team final came in. We were not sure that was going to happen, but that was a fascinating World Championships. I would say one of the most fun competitions to be like sitting with your friends watching. Like us in the media area sitting and watching that 2019 team final in Stuttgart was so fun to watch. The like, could Italy actually do this kind of gradually unfold? Because what had happened was, so to go back, Italy qualified to the team final in last place, the final qualification spot. They qualified in 8th. They only made the team final by a half tenth over Germany, and we were in Stuttgart. So it was kind of like immediately after it happened, it was like the letdown. Because in Germany, like everyone was like, this German team, and it's a beloved German team, and you've got Kim Bui and Elizabeth Seitz, and all of those stars. They didn't make the team final by the smallest margin against this Italian team. So it was kind of a downer, but it was also exciting for this Italian team that we had been so excited about and was hyped so much. This group was they were finally seniors. They were competing together at Worlds. And then we got the team final, where heading in, as usual, USA, China, Russia were the heavy medal favorites. And as we were talking about it, I think our cool upset, spoiler pick at the time was France with Melanie competing on their team. They had done pretty well relatively in qualification because it was kind of a Splatfest of a Worlds overall. But it was supposed to be USA, China, Russia are going to be the medalists if they stay on their apparatuses, famous last words. And then what if they don't? Could France upset? The rotation order and the various meltdowns and falls and 11s that we saw from the top teams kept Italy in second for most of the meet, but we were all very guarded because it was like, calm down, they still have to finish on beam. Like, yeah, Italy's in second, but they still have to go to beam and it might get dicey. And then they hit their first beam routine. And then they hit their second beam routine. And we were like, oh my God, it could happen. They just have to hit one more routine. And then Elisa Iorio anchors with the triumphant winning with a fall routine, which I guess is like the theme for Italy, because we were like, she just has to stay on the beam. She just has to stay on the beam, and Italy's going to win a team medal at Worlds. It's going to be so amazing. And then she fell and got an 11, and that was still enough. And the score came in. It was like, oh my God, Italy still hung on for bronze. It was a huge deal. Dramatic final, breakthrough accomplishment. Tremendous for that group. And I think essential for them to realize their own potential and their own ability level of being like, oh, we fell a bunch of times and can do so much better than this. And we won a medal that like hasn't happened before. That not since, the 50s. So it was a huge deal. Huge breakthrough for them. And such a fun group to watch. And as we talked about at the beginning, the execution, the creativity, the skill choice of even little things like Giorgia Villa having a back extension roll in her beam routine. And we were like, oh, the most perfect back extension roll anyone's ever done. And
like Shannon Miller's here on the building.
It was just so exciting to watch that gymnastics. It's well executed. It's difficult. It's creative. It's just like, this is what we have been waiting for in an open-ended code where things were feeling like, you could do so much more with this code, but everything's, a cookie cutter. And it was, gymnastics with personality.
Yes. The men in 2021.
Huge deal. Because so this was, as we mentioned before, Kitakyushu 2021, 2 medals on rings for the Italian men. This is when they broke the Soviet record for most medals on rings for any team. And this was also when Nicola Bartolini won gold on floor. The only problem with that is that it's only happened once instead of 15 times in a row, like Juri Chechi, which is what it should have been because it's Nicola Bartolini. But, we'll take our one. At least it happened once.
And the most fun thing, like you're describing how it was for the women's team in 2019, this is how it was in Kitakyushu, and because we were the only media given a visa, that we got to talk to them and be right there and witness like the kissing and hugging and the whole federation being there. And we were staying in the hotel with their media team, so like seeing their exuberance and just like how this was so long time coming for this men's team. And how excited everyone was and like breaking the record. And it was such big news in Italy. And they were just overjoyed and just, they've been training together for so long to see them express themselves so much. Like, this is what we love about watching gymnastics and watching sports. You don't know when it's going to happen. And then to see people like let it all out, all the stress, everything. Was just like so wonderful, and they were so happy and always happy to give an interview too, which is great. We love that about them. So it was amazing to see that in person and be able to witness that, because it was really an honor to be there for that. And it was a big, kind of a to Tim Daggett making fun of Bartolini's tattoo, because as we all might question why you would write unlucky across your neck. But we've learned, you don't ever know what people's pain is. You don't know what their story is. You don't know what the history is. Clearly he's expressing something with that. So we don't make fun of things. We will discuss it.
We don't make fun of things. Well, what am I supposed to do around here?
I mean, if I was an analyst on NBC, I wouldn't make fun of it. That's our job.
As I established, I'm most comfortable making fun of people when they are already dead, so that they cannot come back with anything.
Like
history.
Igor and his fame fades, but what does his neck say? His neck tattoo? Oh wait,
I expect you to remember this. This is your specialist subject.
Pain fades, but the
neck tattoos are forever.
Pain fades, but the glory remains, or something like that, on his neck. Oh my God. Just, Igor. Neck tattoos. Okay. Paris Olympics and beyond. Paris Olympics, so amazing for the Italian team.
Amazing. But it was kind of touch and go heading in, because the Italian women had this great result in 2019, and then there was a lot of fourth. There was like a lot of fourth, and no world's medals in 2022, no world's medals in 2023. They were having success at the European level, 3 of 4. They've won, 3 of the last 4 European team titles as we record now, 3 of the last 4 all-around titles. But it was kind of, they were just missing. And what had changed was that Italy was in the mix now, but they kept just missing the podium. And so it was not a given in Paris that they were going to come through. The talent was there, the scoring potential was there, the ability was there, but we had been living through a couple of years of like, you almost did it, but finished 4th. And then they came through in the team competition in Paris, winning a silver medal, the first in a recognizable gymnastics era for Italy as a team, the women as a team for getting a team medal at the Olympics. But then they went back to their normal, because it was like Alice was having her 4th place of an Olympics. And as the roller coaster of storylines as we live through an Olympics as gymnastics weirdies, and everyone's barely sleeping, and you're getting up in the middle of the night to try to watch the Olympics, and it's all like everyone's basically delirious. It was like amazing for Italy, medal in the team final. And then it was like Alice D'Amato 4th in the all around when she realistically could have medaled. 5th in the bars final when she realistically could have medaled. And we were like, oh, like a sane person said, Alice's best chances of winning an individual Olympic medal are now behind her.
Yep.
She didn't in the all-around. She didn't on bars. She's certainly not going to on beam, given the field. So that's right out. And then what happens in the beam final? Alice D'Amato is like, guess who is an Olympic champion on beam? I'm the one who stayed on. And all y'all can fall off as much as you want and get deducted for not saluting as much as you want because I'm going to win gold. So that was a huge deal. The most unexpected medal of that Olympics, other than like Simone not winning floor, and then all the afters with the floor final notwithstanding, because that all happened after the Olympics.
Yeah.
But you would never have picked Alice D'Amato to win. No. She's a great beamer. Expect her to score great. You would never thought she was going to win the Olympic title on beam. And if you picked any Italian, you would have picked Manila Esposito, who
like
got bronze.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the story of so many beam finals. It's like you never know what's going to happen, and the best gymnasts in the world both fell off, so now it's who can stay on is part of beam. Yeah, and then Esposito, I mean, the culmination, and she's still going, which is, and then her
this is a commission about Italian gymnastics, and you have a well-documented love of Manila Esposito. Would you just like to talk about Manila for a while?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Why do we love Manila Esposito? It's her, so her aesthetic as a gymnast, which is what gymnastics is supposed to be, which is power and elegance and flexibility and artistry together. All those things she has in everything she does. Her beam and floor, especially, the way that she is innovative and creative and does things differently. Like I love, like a wolf turn. Everyone has to do them because they're worth so much. They're so ugly. But she did a disco roll into it. I talked about this so many times. She does, you hold your palms together and then you put them over your head in a little wave. It's just the little creative things. It's also her quality of movement is like a dancer. Everything goes together and it's fluid. She is the opposite of a current all-around world champion from Russia, whose name is Melnikova.
I'll bail you out there.
You guys know how this happens to me. Melnikova is just staccato everything,
I don't really agree, but I will go with you on this journey.
She has made improvements, but
Manila Esposito is.
I mean, she's not like Robot 2000 Zamolodchikova, but is not a fluid gymnast. But Esposito is just, her quality of movement is just exquisite and makes her stand alone. Not to mention just really hard shit. Like, connecting her series of like layout or back handspring on into a series of layouts. And like, she's not doing easy stuff either. And it's just, she will always be someone that I think of, like, regardless of if she wins something, she's in my Ivana Hong book of gymnasts that are just so beautiful to watch.
And she already has one plenty.
That's true.
As Simone reminds us, appreciate the accomplishments when they happen rather than asking for more.
Shut up, everybody.
shut up,
everybody.
Another
Biles philosophy. Yeah. Shut up.
And I think the smartest thing that Alice D'Amato and Manila Esposito did in the entire Paris Olympics was not doing their best in the floor final, so they didn't have to be part of that whole deal. Like, the greatest gift of all is like, I wasn't close to bronze in the floor final, and I don't have to be part of that, which is also a gift. They were like, we got our medals in the beam final. Floor, I don't want any of that, which was a very smart move. You don't have to be part of it. Just get out of there. you have your Olympic medals. I'm so pleased that so many of this starring generation of Italian gymnasts are continuing. Not all of them. Giorgia Villa just had her retirement ceremony. There was like a song and everyone was crying, and it was like, this is the retirement ceremony befitting the quality of gymnastics of Giorgia Villa. I feel like we have not talked about Martina Maggio enough, who has been excellent, both in terms of execution and solidity. And I feel like there were so many times where someone was hurt, or Alicia Iorio was hurt, or one of the D'Amatos was hurt, and Maggio was the one who was like, I'm going to come through, hit for the team in the moment. Like, I'm going to pick up everyone else and be the one who is keeping us together and keeping us on enough routines to win, or to, get a medal, or to have a good result, because it's always they're never all healthy at the same time, which is the side tragedy of this. Like, the curse of being graced with the D'Amatos is that it was like we like made a wish on a genie's lamp, but there was like a catch. Like, there's always a catch, and it's like, you may have the D'Amatos, but they will never both be healthy at the same time. It was like, this is the curse. Be careful what you wish for. It's like an Aesop fable of the D'Amatos. But there's always, like, nothing's ever quite right. And they've had these, like, also a glue gymnast, like Maggio, who's going to come up and hit. And, it's just been a great group. I'm so glad Esposito is still competing. Alice and Asia D'Amato are still competing. Alicia Iorio is still competing. So they're going for it. It's an extremely strong group, and it's an extremely deep group because they've been able to continue to add extremely strong gymnasts. Like, we're obsessed with Giulia Perotti, who is the 2025 national champion, who did not have the worlds we maybe hyped her potentially having in 2025. But that's exactly what happened to Manila Esposito too. We were really excited about her. Her first worlds didn't go great. We're like, okay, you got your one worlds, you got it out of the way. Things are going to go great. So I think there's a lot of reason for optimism about what's next for the Italian women, both because you've got a situation where the returning stars who are already accomplished, a lot of them are still continuing, but they're not over-reliant on them at the expense of the pipeline and the building of the next generation. Like, you've got a Giulia Perotti. Sofia Tonelli has been on some teams. She's been doing very well. Other new seniors like Benedetta Gava's Yurchenko double full is one of the top scoring individual vaults so far this year in 2026. So you have this next group as well. And that is partially what creates a lot of optimism. And part of the promise and the success of Serie A is that you have a system in which you are encouraged to build this depth because there are opportunities to compete. And it's not just all like, okay, well, the Alice and Asia and Manila are going to get all the spots in the team, so why do I bother? You have reason for people to keep going and get accolades for their great accomplishments.
Mm-hmm. I agree. The next thing is we need to get more Italians to come to the United States to do college gymnastics and make all their NIL deals. Like, who was sponsored by cheese?
Georgia Vila was like Parmesan Georgia Vila. Yeah.
Wheel of Parmesan.
And the pictures of her with the cheese are just, we should have done a whole segment about the pictures of Georgia Vila with the cheese.
Yeah. It's just, this is the next step.
I do want to ask you, though, I mean, we didn't do one of the questions.
Okay.
Before we say goodbye, the final question was, do you think Italy will defeat the US and win gold this quad?
Very possible.
It's an extremely talented team. Russia's eligibility makes everything harder for everyone who has been in the medal mix, both on the men's and women's side. I mean, you look at the usual suspects, just like we talked about in 2019. You look at the US, you look at Russia, you look at China. If they fulfill their potential, that could be the podium. And Italy could have a great performance and not medal and finish fourth, like happened, a lot of times in recent years. I think we could see that, but they have every reason to think like they're not lacking any tools. Right. They're not like, oh, here is where we are compared to this top team that's way above us. Like, there's no event and no reason to think that they're below. They're right there and can do it.
Yep. Yeah. If they all hit and they have everyone healthy at the same time, it's legit that they could do it. Thank you so much to Jasmine, our galactic champion level Club Gym Nerd member, for today's commission. We loved it. You can join or gift a Club Gym Nerd membership like Jasmine has for exclusive bonus content, like an extra podcast every week. And you can find it all at gymcastic.com. Bonus content like Behind the Scenes, which is weekly at noon Pacific or immediately following meets like the US Classic. coming up in July. Remember to take off on gay, split on rights. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on Behind the Scenes.